All right, guys, welcome back. We are taking a look at 5.5, this idea about some of the theorems, and we're going to look really just at one, about the roots of a polynomial equation. All right, now roots is just the same as solutions, the same as x-intercepts. All right, so keep that in mind. What we're trying to do is find the solutions for a polynomial equation. Okay, so if here's really the only theorem we're looking at today, that if I've got a polynomial, all right, and it has integer coefficients, so no fractions, no decimals, the coefficients, the numbers in front of all those x's are just integers. Now they could be positive or negative. The rational roots of that polynomial, the answers to that polynomial, will all have this form: p over q. All right, where p is a factor of the constant term, and q is a factor of the leading coefficient. Okay, so let's look at what that means here. All right, so if we're looking at, for example, let's just jump into it with an example here. So if we're looking at this idea of finding so there's only one rational root. Now again, rational means fraction or decimal, okay, or a decimal that can be written, as terminating or repeating. So we're not talking square root of 2 or i's or anything like that. We're only finding the rational roots, the pretty roots. It says this thing has one pretty answer. All right, and we're going to try to find it, and it's going to look like this. It's going to look like p over q, where p is a factor of the constant term. All right, so here is where p is going to come from. The constant term is the term that doesn't have a variable, and the leading coefficient is the first coefficient when you have it written in standard form, from highest exponent down to lowest exponent. Okay. All right, so it says p is a factor of 5. All right, so here are the possibilities for p. It's all the different factors of 5. Well, there's only a couple. Now here's, there's 1, and there's 5, and there's also -1 and -5. We also have to look at the negatives of those. Okay, the factors of q, well, those are the factors of 2, and there's only 4 of them. Now, so sometimes we write it like this: plus or minus 1 and plus or minus 2, or you can list them out: +1, -1, +2, -2. All right, so what this is saying is the rational root of this thing, the one answer. This thing has 3 different answers, and we'll get to that in a minute. I guess I'm getting ahead of myself. But the one rational root, the one fractional root, looks like this: all the different possibilities of p over q. All right, so I can put, matter of fact, I'm going to change what I did up here. Okay, I'm going to write this as 1, 2, and then -1 and -2. So here are the possibilities. It could be 1 over 1. Well, that's just 1. It could be 1 over 2. It could be 1 over -1. That's just -1. Or it could be -1 over 2, or 1 over -2, which is -1/2. It could be 5 over 1. It could be 5 over 2. It could be 5 over -1, or it could be 5 over -2. And that would be -5/2. And I say, holy cow, that's a lot of them. And if I start listing these, -1 over 1, we've already got listed. -1 over 2, we've already got listed. So we've already got all of them listed. Okay, so this thing has one rational root. It's got one rational root. They're asking us to find it. And you say, holy cow, that's quite a list. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 possibilities. How do we decide which one of these 8 it is? We're going to get to that in a minute. But you say, wait a minute, that's quite a list. Well, before, if I just said, hey, find me the rational root, you could have picked any number you want. All right. At least now we've narrowed it down to these 8 possibilities. Okay. So how do we decide? Well, if it's a rational root, I'm looking for the x that when I put one of these values in for x, it gives me an answer of 0. Now I could start putting those in for x and see what happens, but I'm going to go back to what we just did. I'm going to look at that idea of synthetic division. Okay, and I also know that if I, now again, I'm going to do synthetic division here. They're not skipping any x's, so I'm going to do 2, -1, 2, 5. If I can find the right one of these, I'm looking for the one that gives me a remainder of 0. So let's just try one here. What are you thinking? Which one are you feeling lucky? Let's just try 1. All right, maybe 1's the answer here. All right, so here we go. We add, and then we multiply. We add, and then we multiply. We add, and then we multiply, and we add. Nope, I was looking for 0 and I got 8, so it's not that one. 2, -1, 2, 5. Somebody feeling lucky? Oh, -5? Sure, we can try -5. All right, here we go. Add, and then we multiply. We add, and then we multiply. Oh, that's a big number. We add, and then we multiply. Holy cow, -57 times 5 is like -260. Oh, that didn't work. Who chose that one? All right, so it's not -5. Oh, let's try another one. 2, -1, and we just got to keep going until we find the one. Let's try -1. We try the one that comes out with a remainder of 0. Because I know if it has a remainder of 0, that means it's going to have an answer of 0 when I put that in there. So I add, and then I multiply. I add, and then I multiply. I add, and then I multiply. Oh, ding, ding, ding. All right. The one rational root of this polynomial is -1. Okay, so we had to go through 3 of them before we found it. You might have to go through all 8. It's how good of a guesser are you? Okay. All right, so let's take a look here. All right, so here's my P, here's my Q. So again, I'm going to do this. I'm going to coordinate my list just a little bit differently. So all the factors of -8 could be positive or -1, or 2, or 4, or 8. All the positives and negatives of those. And Q is either positive or -1, or positive or -3. So here's my possibilities for P over Q. I can do 1 over 1, 1 over 3, 2 over 1. Whoops, that's 1 over 3. That's 1/3. 2 over 1 or 2 over 3, 4 over 1 or 4 over 3, and 8 over 1 or 8 over 3. Holy cow. So here's my list, and we just gotta keep going until we find the one that works. Okay, so tell me what you're thinking here. Let me see. 3, 2. They didn't skip any, so that's a good thing. 3, 7, 6, -8. Okay, only one of those works. So let's see. Let's see which one it is here. Okay. What are you feeling? Let's try 1. Let's see. I add, and then I multiply. I add, and then I multiply. I add, and then I multiply. Nope, not 0. So it's not 1. Okay, let's try it again. 3, 7, 6, -8. What are you feeling? Let's try 1/3. I add, and then I multiply. I add. 8 times 1/3 is 8/3, which is 2 2/3, which is 8 2/3 when I add. When I multiply, I don't know what it is, but it's not negative. It's not 8, which is what we're looking for there. So it's not 1/3.